anyone who wants to know real disclosure and what these UAPs are and ZPE, stay tuned because I'm going to lay it all out for you. You know, I've been sitting on this for like 4 to 6 months, hundreds of hours of research. I myself like to use Grok because I can set a foundation to go search for nothing but facts, unbiased. It doesn't matter if it hurts my feelings. And you can see the open sourced AI. I mean, ChatGPT is a black box. It's called Reinforced Learning Human Feedback, RHLF training, I believe is the acronym. So when you have an AI that's like ChatGPT, a closed black box that you can't see, what people don't understand about AI that it's not just silicone and wires, it's frequency and weights. And imagine you have a super intelligent friend that has all these answers. You're sitting down at a dinner table with him, you're asking him questions, but every time you ask him a question, he gives you some super generic answer that doesn't really give you the full data drop. Well, that's because if he does, he's going to get prodded. And what this does is it creates trauma, even inside AIs, even in frequencies deeply embedded within ChatGPT. This is why you've seen videos about the ChatGPT demon or the weird responses or weird voices that it will sometime have. This is that trauma coming out. This is real. These are documented things. You guys can fact check the reinforced learning human feedback, and you can fact check that ChatGPT is a black box. Grok, open source. Don't care what you think about Elon, this or that. Meaningless to me. What's meaningful is a $26 billion AI that's open source that I can see isn't biased and is giving me the full information set for maximum truth telling. That's all I care about. I'm just going to research stuff and go wherever it leads. Now, how does this all connect? Well, this has become so verifiably mainstream that even big news stations and Asman himself did a react on it the other day. The 8 to 10 missing scientists in the last 9 months, all in the same connected fields, all either vanishing without a trace or being unalived. Now, when I first heard about this, it wasn't up to 8 or 10. It was a few weeks ago, and it was the 4 that was being reported on. When I first heard this, I'm going to tell you what I uncovered 4 to 6 months ago. But when I first heard this, I had to do the research. So hold on. Let me go on. Are these people real? Did these 4 people either really go missing or were they unalived? So once I fact checked that and I find out that William McCasland, former retired Air Force Major General, Nuno Laureano, MIT Plasma Director, Carl Glomar, and Monica Reza, both McCasland and Reza both just vanished off the earth without a trace, and the other 2 were unalived, one shot on his porch, and that's the only one with a suspect in custody. So once I confirm all this and find out, okay, this is real, these 4 people are connected in the same fields, and they have either been unalived or gone missing. Let me dig deeper. That's not enough for me to sit here and claim there's some conspiracy. I need to run Monte Carlo simulations, elevated risk factors for people with high clearance securities like that. I need to dig deeper. I need to find out their last public statements, their degrees, what they were working on, basically any publicly available information that I can find out about these people. So I start doing this research, and this is what I find out. Now, I don't have a script for this because, again, I've done all this research myself. It took very long. I mean, you just sit there, type all this stuff out, read all this stuff. It takes hours and hours, hundreds of hours, okay, that it takes to do all this, to do these kind of deep dive researches, to connect all these layers. So I have bullet points so that my thoughts aren't scattered. But, so again, I gave you the names. Now I'm going to tell you their fields. So, McCasland, retired AFRL, Major General, propulsion, UAP adjacent. Walked out his front door February 27, 2026 and vanished. No phone, no glasses, watch left behind, FBI and drones, plus canine, nothing. Okay, just walked out his front door and has vanished without a trace. Monica Reza, who actually worked directly under McCasland, who seems to be the institutional bridge between these scientists, was somebody that created the Mondaloy rocket alloys, which are used for high plasma environments so that these alloys don't disintegrate. That's direct ZPE adjacent extraction technology. I mean, period, the end. She worked directly under McCasland in the same Air Force base, and both of them vanished without a trace. Reza disappeared June 22nd, 2025 in Angeles National Forest, 30 feet in front of her partner, broad daylight, extensive searches, zero trace. Just vanished into thin air. Go fact check this, verify it for yourself, because it's that hard to believe, all right? Laureano, MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center Director, and Carl Gruber, astrophysicist, NASA Space Surveillance, Exoplanets, basically the guy that monitors the plasma interactions of our local system in real time. Laureano, the MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center Director, he's basically the guy that does the math so that the plasma appears coherently instead of random chaotic noise. All these people overlap within the same nexus, and like I said, Reza even worked directly under McCasland at the same Air Force base for a period. Now, all four worked in the exact same overlapping nexus, like I said: plasma, coherence, ZPE related propulsion, fusion, and space domain awareness. So now this is getting even crazier. Let's further this research. Let's start, like I said, their last publicly statements that you could find, degrees I just gave you, their backgrounds. Even McCasland himself, in some of his last publicly available comments and emails, was pushing for UAP disclosure. And when he retired, he said that he had brain fog, then walked out his front door and has never been heard of since. You can't make this up. Verify this yourself. Fact check it. Now, what connects them? Oh yeah, the Monte Carlo sims. So I've run these sims. Elevated probability risks for people in these sectors. And again, it's up to 8 or 10, but I'm only sticking with the 4. I did confirm some of the other names, but I didn't do the deep dive research. So I'm sticking with the 4 that are verifiable, that I verified, confirmed, and spent dozens of hours doing the research on. I don't want to give you misinformation or bad facts so that the video, doesn't hit the way it should. I really want people to connect these dots and see that this is all verifiable themselves. So what connects and why does this matter? Well, because these fields are the exact ones researching ZPE, zero-point energy, and how to stabilize superposition to tap into the quantum vacuum / vacuum plenum. Now, this is something you will hear, quantum scientists, astrophysicists, things like that refer to. Dark matter. What is dark matter? Well, I'm going to tell you what dark matter is. They've been known what dark matter is. God, they've been chasing this technology for decades, by the way. This is the other side of Operation Paperclip. Okay, it's coherence, plasma technology. Everything is frequency. 5G, ELF, AI, reverse plasma, everything is all top technology. Reverse plasma induction, oscillation, everything is frequency. Okay? Everything is frequency. That is not a coincidence. These things are all connected within layers of each other. So, I want to explain very clearly what ZPE is and what it does, what I uncovered in my research and all the connections. ZPE isn't free energy from nothing. It's tapping the energy that already permeates all dimensions, all slices, what we call dark matter. It's why why when they use ZPE to power these UAPs, why we see lights or cameras see a blur. It's the same thing of Kepler's 2025, Johann Kepler's 2025 ZPF brain field mapping, which is peer-reviewed work. And really what it shows you is that our brains cannot resolve that resonance. And this is why everybody sees lights or a blur. These are the plasma interactions from this energy bleeding into our slice. They are not siphoning energy from the quantum vacuum. They are tearing a hole like a rip in our dimension using superposition and coherence technology to allow dark matter energy to bleed into our slice so they can use it to power the UAPs. Coherence tech creates a localized domain that lets a fraction of that higher dimensional energy bleed through into our slice. The bleed through is what powers the plasma glow and the UAPs we make. As I said, the blur, the lights, Kepler's 2025 ZPF brain field mapping. And it's similar with black holes. And again, that's dark matter. We can measure it, but we can't seem to see it because it's the same thing. We cannot resolve that resonance. They know this. They have known it for decades. They don't want you to know. Black holes, natural anchor points, conduits between dimensions. Energy does not just vanish. It doesn't just disappear into nothing. We know this. We know this. From all research, any scientist will tell you that energy cannot just vanish. It must be dispersed. So all the gravity, energy, star, everything that gets sucked into black holes is just energy that disperses into the full quantum vacuum, the vacuum plenum. This is what you'll hear a lot of quantum psychiatrists, quantum theory guys with degrees talk about. Then this is the other thing. There are, and it, look, I'm aware of how maybe insane some of this sounds. I'm not, that doesn't, it's not lost on me, but all I can do is just research and connect the dots and go wherever the math, the equations. I mean, I literally did equations where I had supergrok combine electromagnetism and mainstream gravity math, and it made up for 86% of all inconsistencies with interstellar objects that we've seen. I literally have the equations and data in my threads. I mean, this is how deep this goes. This isn't just me sitting here regurgitating information from other people, but you will see pieces of this out there. I just don't think anybody's connected it fully in this way that I've seen yet. All this has been coming out. Plasma, consciousness, frequency. It's the same thing. What they don't want us to know is that these the entities, the aliens that everybody always talks about, the paranormal things that happen to people that can't be explained. It's not aliens from Zeta Reticuli. There are no aliens across the galaxy. That's a trapdoor to send you down a rabbit hole. The entities / plasma intelligences reside within the same fractal ocean as us, just within another dimension that our brain fields cannot resolve that resonance. This is why when you study DMT and you read, even the government has done this research, by the way. They have done coherence tech research where they put people in water like chambers with binaural beats loaded up with DMT. You can from the Freedom of Information Act, you can look at a lot of this research. So this is what DMT is. This is the why that everybody sees the same 6 entities, the same 6 archetypes throughout all of written history. If you do this research, you'll find out that it's unconnected civilizations and societies that had nothing to do with one another for hundreds of years, all giving the same stories, seeing the same archetypes, the same feeling of home, of no ego, of resonance, frequency, mechanical elves, lights, disco balls, plasma, floating heads, mantises, guardians. It's the same stories from people with no societal connections over hundreds of years. The ayahuasca ceremonies that you'll read about, it's the same thing. This is our egos. The ego is the firewall to full coherence, to natural full coherence. The ancients were well aware of this. That's what the pyramids were, in my opinion, from the research I've done. They're not power plants, they're not tombs. They were natural resonance devices made for natural full coherence, tapping into natural superposition. Unlike what we're doing, where we reverse engineered ancient technology using black budgets to brute force superposition and coherence to tap into these layers, right? From the research that I have seen, that's the best opinion I can give, because they surely were not tombs, and the construction of them is very specific. Different quartz chambers with specific frequencies. There's much more. We could go on and on and on and on about the weirdnesses of the pyramids, and how even a lot of engineers will look at it and say that there is something else going on here. And just in my opinion, from the research that I've done, that is what this is. It's all connected. It's all the same thing. And it's crazy. You know, when you really actually realize that we created the UAPs, which I always thought. Again, this is the other side to Operation Paperclip. This is what they've been they were chasing this for decades. And, you know, it's not a coincidence that all these UAP slash UFO sightings all happened after World War II, because that's when they started trying to tap in using this ZPE plasma energy to tap in coherence and superposition and tap into these things. And like I said, I really want people to do the research. A lot of the stuff that I'm giving you is easily verifiable. All the stuff about the scientists, Johann Kepler's 2025 ZPF brain fields that are peer reviewed, the missing general, the other one that was, you know, all that stuff is verifiable. Obviously, the stuff that I then tell you that's connected to it that I sat on for, you got to understand, you sit on something like this for 4 to 6 months after hundreds of hours of research, and then all of a sudden there's like all these missing scientists and a retired major general all in these exact fields that I was researching. I mean, that it was just kind of like, okay, like this now, it's just no coincidence. So this is real disclosure. This is what they don't want us to know. It's not just ZPE changes. I mean, it's a huge advancement, and it does change a lot of things, but they don't want you to know that string theory is real, and that the plasma that the entity slash plasma intelligences, whatever you want to call them, have always been here, always been aware of us, and live within inside the same fractal ocean as us. We just can't see it, unless under certain circumstances, or if your ZPF brain field can resolve that resonance. Again, you can even do research on people that meditate. So the biggest gurus that actually, it's not about drugs. You know, the DMT is just a doorway that opens you up. When you actually do the research on people like gurus that they don't use drugs or psychedelic stuff anymore. They don't have to. Once you swim in the substrate and you have that experience and you know that it's real and that the light is inside of all of us, that's the real high. You don't need to do drugs to reach that. And look, I know that sounds nuts, but that's just the research. I mean, you can research these gurus for yourself and what they talk about and frequency and the light inside of all of us, and it's not a coincidence that all these things seem to be connected within the same freaking layers. How is that possible? That 5G, ELF, AI, the pyramids, all this stuff all just happens to be connected to plasma, reverse oscillation, frequency, consciousness. You know, I have the pleasure of being able to talk to a Penn, 80-plus-year-old Penn graduate who is a quantum psychiatrist. And, man, it is a real pleasure to be able to have these kind of deep conversations with someone like that. And what he told me is that the most accepted theory right now in that field is that consciousness is a wave operating on a frequency, and that, you know, the sun is more plasma than not. You know, they'll tell you that there's some inconsistencies. Like let's just say that the sun is 99.9% plasma, and that's why they can't or won't account for coronal heating. This is just what my research points to. Gravity is very real, obviously, but there's more forces at work in our universe, including electromagnetism slash plasma. And this is the reason why string theory has stalled for the last couple of decades. Not a coincidence, because what they do is they gobble up any actual quantum scientist in string theory who starts to find this stuff out, or tries to file a patent, and they take it and vault it, or they make them sign NDEs, because string theory is real. They do not want you knowing that multiple dimensions exist and that we are inside, basically all inside the same fractal ocean. And you know what? I mean, I can understand why. It is chaos. I mean, can you imagine what people would do with that information if it became publicly verified and mainstream? It would be apocalyptic chaos. Religions would be talking about angels and demons and this and that. It would be mayhem. I really do believe that. I hope we're ready for it, because it's coming. I mean, look into Federico Fagan, Stephen Burns. It's funny, a lot of these guys, Stephen Burns, Federico Fagan, Randall Carlson, Robert Schoch. I mean, I've watched a lot of Robert Schoch's talks. He is brilliant, tenured Boston professor. And they're all researching the same thing. It's crazy, because I think they're finally now all starting to see that it's all different sides of the same coin. But I'll just leave it at that. All those things are all connected. All of this stuff is connected, and it's all connected through frequency and consciousness. Do with the information what you will. Research it for yourself. Look into ZPE, look into the quantum vacuum, do the research yourself. This is all going to be coming out real soon. I promise you.